All right, first things first. This is not my speech. Everybody, listen to that right now. This is not my speech. This is something that you have to do. These are my obligatory thank yous, and so I'm going to go through the list. I'd like to thank my friends and family, of course, for ostensible reasons. I'd like to thank all of my teachers and adults I've met while in Crossland. Yes, even you two. Those two teachers know who they are. More specifically, I'd like to thank the janitor with dreads for inquiring about my athletic adventures for the past 3 years. I'd like to thank Mike Bellis, my old summer camp director, for taking every opportunity he could to argue with me. I'd like to thank Mr. Henry Hall for being foolish enough to challenge me to a game of tic-tac-toe my 9th grade year. You gain rare humility from being outsmarted by a 14-year-old. You should hope. I want to thank Brandon Miller, Diamante White, Jawan Whitaker, and Jamil Ahmed for not overreacting when I cropped pictures of their heads on animal bodies. I want you to know that your momentary embarrassment has guaranteed me a lifetime of laughter. I have to thank Earl Childress, Zachary Cuffey, Dukins Marcellus, and Larquette Jenkins for all being people that I've had too much fun with and for actually making me feel like a regular teenager sometimes. I want to thank the taxi driver who drove me to school my 10th grade year for letting me know I was on the right path. I want to thank Cartoon Network for supplying me with so many of the jokes I've made my classmates laugh at during the years. I'm not a comedian, just an excellent plagiarist. Lastly, I want to thank anyone who has a dream and has never stopped chasing that dream despite what discouragements any of you may have heard from others. People like you remind me that sometimes there's nothing wrong with being a fool in the eyes of others, as long as your dreams are the only images you see in your own eyes. All right, and now it's time for the main event, my speech. Kamehameha. I was so obsessed with finding the optimal way to start my speech during the entire writing process. That's what I came up with. The word possesses flair, confidence, intimidation, and havoc. Most importantly, it isn't in the English dictionary. Wild card. Looking out in front of me, looking down at the graduates, and looking at one another, each and every one of these breathing, blinking, coughing, space-occupying individuals is a wild card, each with their own experiences, preferences, paces, parlances, styles, and abilities. If the entire Crossland High School class of 2014 could be one cartoon character, that character would be Scooby-Doo. Timid, unusual, pusillanimous, reliable, amicable, original, lucky, and most importantly, time-proof. The class of 2014 has encountered a lot of mysteries, faced a lot of strange creatures, eaten their fair share of Scooby snacks, treats. I'm trying to be figurative or analogous. Yet, as one mystery is solved, another always seems to unravel. So congratulate yourselves, because you solved the mystery of school. And no, Mr. Thomas wasn't the man from Mars. Everyone knows he was the spooky spaceman. So, as season 1 concludes and everyone prepares for the next, inevitably we're going to come to realize that there is no season 2. No more episodes, no more villains, no more Scooby stacks, no more strange creatures, nothing. It's over. The credits are rolling, the music is fading out, and worst of all, that screen is turning black. Someone in the crowd is stubborn. They're telling themselves that, no, this can't be, it can't be over. Well, it is. If the entire Crossland High School class of 2014 is Scooby-Doo, and we're all separating after graduation, then there is no Scooby, hence, there is no main character. Newsflash, the show is called Scooby-Doo, not Fred, Daphne, Boy with Snacks, and Orange Turtleneck Girl. Without all of us, none of this can continue, and so we must embark on the hardest journey of all, spin-offs. But before we prepare for the escapades of our new programs, let's take a moment to acknowledge how fortunate we are to have had this one. I once heard a story about a boy from Jamaica and his family who sailed across the Atlantic Ocean on a shipshod raft. His family and he had nothing but the clothes on their backs, which were already tattered and torn from the biting teeth of the glacial Atlantic and the stinging slaps of its waves. Miraculously, that family reached the city family reached the southernmost part of Florida, but their trip was far from finished. You see, the family wanted to reach the city that never sleeps, New York, and they would have to sacrifice a lot of sleep to get there. And so they began their expedition from the southernmost point of Florida to New York. Let me mention that this family didn't have any shoes, so the entire trip was on bare feet. Let me mention, from Florida to New York, that's 9 states: New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and West Virginia, all on bare feet. Naturally, you can't survive without eating. So do you know what they ate? Dandelions. They plucked them out the ground, and they chewed, swallowed, and digested dandelions. That was breakfast. That was lunch. That was dinner. That was all they ate. Dandelions. So from the southernmost part of Florida, across 9 states, barefoot, on a strict dandelion diet, the family traveled to New York. Scratch that. That family made it to New York. The Jamaican boy, now a man, was watching a baseball game one day at the park and looked crazy, cheering for both teams and even applauding the umpire. My 11th grade baseball coach, who told me the story, looked at the guy and asked him, "Who are you rooting for?" The man promptly replied, "Everybody." He said he didn't know what the game was called, he didn't know how to play it, but if they had the game in Jamaica, he would have played it every day. That guy was a boy forced to travel over 800 miles away from the only place he knew across 9 states, barefoot, eating only dandelions, to arrive at a place he's never been. Compared to his remarkable journey, what's a homework assignment? What's a science fair project? Was being told to stand in line? Was being forced to tuck your shirt in? Was going from class A to class B in 6 minutes? Was wearing black pants instead of blue jeans? What's graduating? Because the real lessons are those you learn everywhere outside of the classroom. The real homework assignment is how you use what you learned yesterday to tackle challenges you face today. And the real final exam, that's your growth from the day you entered the classroom to the day you left it. So what's the real graduation? Because it's not putting on a gown and walking across a wooden stage. Graduating isn't a moment, it's advancement. So if you haven't advanced, then you haven't graduated. So feel free to trot back and forth across the stage as many times as you like, but you aren't going to become an entirely new person once you walk off with a piece of paper you didn't have when you first walked on. The real diploma, that's in our minds. And no 36 community service hours, no HSA scores, no number of credits, no night school classes, and definitely no program with your name under the heading graduates can hand you that diploma. The only one that matters. Because that diploma stays with you forever. That diploma doesn't sit on your mother's wall, and that diploma shows the kind of person you are when you leave school, not the student you were when you were still in school. True graduating is what the Jamaican experienced. And no, that's not enduring a contemporary trail of tears, but that's understanding how precious and delicate life is. That's demonstrating the fact that you have to enjoy every moment, appreciate what you have regardless of its size, and remain upbeat, because there are going to be as many wins as losses in your life. But acknowledging the wins turns a 50-50 ratio into a 51-49. And now you got more wins than losses, kid. Acknowledging these losses will lead to a paradise of victories. If winning is a tantamount to success and losing the same as failure, then my prior statement is true. I'll give you the truth straight from the mouths of any champion. George Washington was pretty adamant when he said it. Cesar Chavez had his all in all when he said it, and Monkey D. Luffy said the same thing before he set sail for the Grand Line. I'm not successful because I never fail. I'm successful because I know what to do when I fail. So, because I know what to do when I fail. Listen to what they've heard. Capture it. Don't discard any moments from your life, good or bad, because we're living on a fixed supply. And when that number hits 0, there is no sensu bean to help you recuperate. There's no fountain of mystical liquid in some clandestine location that will rejuvenate you. And there definitely isn't no quick draw of some more cards. If life consists of a deck of 40 cards, then after each card is played, it disappears. Meaning when the final card is played, that game can never be played again. So look at your hand and estimate how many cards are left in your deck, and then decide how you want to play them. That's the crux of this entire speech. What do you want to do next? After all, this is your spinoff, entirely about you, and the rest of us, we can make cameos, if you like. And by the way, this isn't some exclusive privilege. Everyone in this room will either have a spinoff or you're currently airing one right now. Do you like it? If not, there's still time to change the characters, the setting, the plot, even the theme song if you like. Hey, maybe switch out Parliament and the Funkadelics for some Justin Bieber or Ice JJ Fish. It's your show. But still, even though it's still your show, even the main character can change. And that's you. Whether you want to be the hero or die simply knowing you weren't the villain, acknowledge the fact, or do you want to be the hero, or whether you want to be the hero or die knowing you weren't the villain, pick a direction and go. But run by yourself. If you run with others, then you always have to slow down to stay with them or speed up to catch up with them. Run at your own pace. Who knows what your life will entail after today? Whether drama, horror, action, comedy, chick flick, or mockumentary, or mockumentary, just have an audience. No matter, just have an audience. It's funny how people wish for super strength, X-ray vision, wings for flight, and the ability to read minds or opposable thumbs. It's funny because even if we had these powers, we'd be too reluctant to use them. We have a superpower, and that's communication. Communication is why we're here today. Communication is why we have technology. And communication is the reason the bad guy said at the end of every episode, and I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids. Wasn't it fun being a meddling kid? Life's beauty is reflected in its mirror of brevity. Smile. You won't break the glass. All you'll see is a graduate with a cap and gown. What that means to you, I guess we'll have to tune in to find out. Episode 1, he finally stopped talking.